wonderful to hear from our speakers today and tomorrow who've been the pioneers and early champions of the vision for space-based solar power. But now we have to come back to Earth because we're hosting today's event from Akron, Ohio, where there is space industry activity with active job postings out there right now. We're going to visit with our executive director and co-founder Tim Chrisman on site at Firestone High School in Akron, along with Laila Gislason, our other co-founder in Michigan. Tell us what's going on today.
Thanks, Lee. Yeah, so I'm here in front of the Firestone Community Learning Center, formerly the Firestone High School here in Akron, where struggling with her name, it was Judy Resnick, was going to be the second woman in space, was on the Challenger when it exploded. This is where she went to high school. We chose coming here for just that reason, but also to connect with the next generation coming up. So we're here talking about workforce development and education and career paths for people who, like Judy, wanted to pursue STEM careers in engineering and science, and those who maybe admire her work, but aren't inclined to the STEM track and want technical education or other skilled jobs that we're going to need in the space economy. I like to joke that for the next year or two, it's mainly millionaires and billionaires going to space, and not a one of them is going to fix their own Wi-Fi, fix their AC, or make their own drinks. And so somebody's got to do that. And I have volunteered to do at least one of those three. I'll leave it to you to guess. But yeah, we wanted to take some time to talk about the sort of trajectory that we're pushing on workforce development and how we're doing that outreach and sort of go from there. Whenever we do these events on the road, we engage with basically three groups: the local public schools, and community colleges, local politicians, and chambers of commerce. And the rationale behind those is that we're trying to build a sustainable pathway to employment for these local communities. And to do that, you really do have to engage all three of those organizations. And we're particularly animated in this cause, as you just heard from General Quast, the sort of message behind the urgency. And my last job, it was my job to watch China's space programs, among other things. And it was the sobering thing to do, to realize that the sort of things we take for granted every day, whether it's security, economic success, or just going to work and being at home peacefully, are not things we can take for granted. And so the workforce development initiative that we at the foundation are pushing for is one of those things that we can start. We can't change the law all by ourselves. As we heard, we need champions and leaders in the political class. We aren't billionaires, so we can't fund the development of new starships and watch them, I think Elon calls it unexpectedly disassemble rapidly, as he does with Starship. But what we can do is start building a network of schools, communities, and people to lay the foundation for a kindergarten to space educational pipeline. I'm told that when I describe it like that way, it sounds like we're taking kindergartners and shooting them into space. I have had two children go through kindergarten, and that was always on the table. They've survived kindergarten, so now they've sort of earned their way into permanence. But the idea really is this is something we can do now. We can take this bull by the horns and start working towards it. And so what we're doing now is building a 50-state network of lead schools who have a desire to engage in the space economy, who maybe have, as Lackawanna College in Scranton, Pennsylvania, a history of self-sufficiency and go-get-emness. They were founded by miners looking to better their lives. Or schools like this, who have a heritage of pioneering space achievement. And what we're doing is using that network to collect the educational and workforce development initiatives that are available and organizing them in one spot. From there, we then know what's needed, what we have, and what can be adapted. I was on a call yesterday with Amazon Web Services about some of their cyber training programs and how right now it's sort of a fixed curriculum that they're using. And they want to take it and make it much more modular. And my response to them was, that's exactly where we want to take space content and curriculum, is taking what already exists, whether it's in manufacturing certifications, welding training, automotive repair, or aerospace manufacturing, and making it modular, adding the practical exercise on the end of what would already be useful training for someone wanting to be in the aerospace industry, and applying it to space. And so that's what we're working on with Amazon Web Services, and trying to export that throughout this budding network that we're developing. As we sort of are laying this foundation, we're looking to the work that NASA has done with their space grant program and the sort of 50-state network. And we're building off of that and the existing models that schools like Cal Poly have, where Cal Poly, with its large school, robust set of teachers, is able to have a wide array of certified trainers for different topics. Well, then they reach down to community colleges and partner with them and say, hey, your students want this content, want this certification, we've got the trainees. How can we partner with you to leverage your reach into these underserved communities and our reach up into places like Amazon Web Services and others? And so that's what we're looking to do with our workforce development initiative, and why we're in places like the Firestone Community Learning Center here. Trying our best to continue the legacy of Judy. Hey.
My apologies.
But yeah,
Just
trying to
wanted to make sure everyone was awake.
Yeah, I can't see my screen. I'm trying this new thing where I just stare at the camera lens instead of using the front-facing camera when I can, so I can watch myself. And so I can't see anything. It's just monologuing here. I feel ideally I look like Stephen Colbert, but I feel like that's not what's going on.
No, you look great. So I just wanted to kind of just, focus on that timeline for a second, because I think, when we hear you say kindergarten to orbit, that still feels that feels like it's so far off, for a kindergartner today to start thinking and learning about space. That just seems extreme somehow, but it's not, because I think within 15 years, probably, that kindergartner is going to be ready for the workforce. That's not that far off.
Well, and it's not even just the idea that we need to teach a kindergartner useful skills for space. I was recently reading a book about how to sort of shape children to be useful members in a diverse society. And the key finding across dozens of studies was exposing them to a wide range of people and experiences inside the home. And the sort of rationale was the home is the safe place for the child, and where they feel most comfortable learning new things and where normalcy sets in. And you have to do this young because after, probably 7 or 8, we're pretty well imprinted on the sorts of person we're going to be. But the idea was at a young age, exposing these kids to a wide range of people and experiences so they felt it was normal. That's why we want to start at kindergarten. Space needs to be normal. And to be normal, kindergartners need to see that that's a viable place to build a life and a career. Hearing about people who went there and are doing it, and seeing that, no, it's not some wild, crazy thing that they get patted on the head at night and say, yeah, little kid, when you grow up and be a really big deal, you can be in a fairy tale or go to space. No, it should be a real thing. As real as anything their parents are doing or other people in their community are. And so that's really why we're starting at kindergarten.
Yeah, well, and I think also just to open their eyes to the fact that it can really be within any industry and within whatever their interest is. There's actually, I'm sure many of you have, this is my tattered copy of Barron's from last month, but the cover, it shows the next space race. And so this is really more from an economic perspective, but again, all the more reason to start this early. But I pulled one of the quotes from this article from Adam Jones, who's a Morgan Stanley analyst. He says, space touches virtually every industry in a significant way. It's hard to find an industry that will not ultimately be altered or even completely disrupted by the development of the space economy. And I think piggybacking that on what Steve Quast was just saying, I mean, it's, this is pretty urgent, I think, both from an economic standpoint and also a security standpoint, and from an educational standpoint. This is not something that we can just sit on our hands on for the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just hope for the best. I mean, we really need to start, hustling, if you will.
No, and that's very true. I was just working with CSIS on a research project about sort of the urgency around this and how between basically 2016 and now, China has gone from taking up less than 1% market share in the private space economy to nearly 40% of the total investment in the space economy, roughly 2/3 the size of the US private space economy. That's in no time whatsoever. And they're able to do that because they're leapfrogging a lot of the early stage work that the US commercial space companies have done over decades, and leveraging a lot of what we're doing, whether it's hardware or technology. But one of the unique strengths of the US is our educational system and the way we generate adults who are able to think, innovate, and adapt to their circumstances. And so this is an area, along with our capital markets, where we can play to our strengths. We don't have to try to beat China at their game of making the lowest cost widget. No, we can develop the highest quality students to innovate in the most challenging arena known to man, with access to the deepest capital markets ever in history. And the time to do that is now. You're right.
So what's the delay? I mean, I know we're doing what we can with the Space Corporation Act, but essentially the technology exists, right, for us to live and work in space now. The industry, I think, is at a point, I mean, again, we've got the cover of Barron's here that's ready to explode. We've got innovators, startups, aerospace companies who really want to get in on the action. Plenty of passionate space enthusiasts who want to be involved. What's the delay? Why is this so difficult to move?
Yeah,
because
so
it's not real.
Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, so from a historical perspective, kind of when you study human nature and the nature of politics and power, it comes down to a lack of vision at that level. You know, civilizations died because of a lack of vision, and this is a vision that is not in the psyche of the American people to the degree where the kind of massive changes that nobody likes have to happen. But you don't have to necessarily, educate every American as to the nature of the problem. If you have the right visionaries in the political seats of power that can put money to bear. And it's about structuring public-private partnerships in a way where you incentivize the outcome. So for example, I want a global energy or assist lunar energy delivery system where it can beam energy to any device in space or on the planet, safe for human beings. You know, there are ways of having companies take what we already know they know how to build and giving them the money with the right incentives, and you never down select to just one. You kind of do it like we did the old, NASA Ames COTS, Falcon 9 originally, where you don't have to down select. You can incentivize the outcomes you're looking for and have them prove it, and then the money goes to the winner and the second and third place, and then you reinitiate and you never down select. You keep the competition going through the operational environment. That would be a Manhattan Project in the current environment that would be very easy for the president or certain members of Congress to convince the president to set in motion. That would accelerate this and not give the money to just any company, but force the companies to prove the metal at what they can build. And we all know, having an understanding of that space industrial base, how that will be like popcorn. The amount of progress that we'll be able to make when there is money put forward with that kind of structure and incentivizing competitive spirit, that's how we do it. The reason it's so hard is there's no vision and there's nobody doing that right now. It's a pickup game and you get a few little things, but even those get killed politically, like COTS Ames, for the Falcon 9, that was widely criticized and ridiculed until reusability actually became a thing.
Yeah. So the Space Corporation Act, as proposed by the Foundation for the Future, is currently circulating the halls of Congress for early support. And it proposes a public-private partnership. Tim, could you speak to how that might address what Steve Quest is just talking about?
Yeah, no, I think it looks to do exactly that. But instead of a single sort of Manhattan project where we're having companies compete there, it's multiple simultaneously, because ironically enough, in DC, asking for $100 million is far harder than asking for $100 billion. If you can prove the urgency and the crisis need around large amounts of money, all of a sudden the sort of long range vision is somehow in everybody's hands. And so that's what the Space Corporation Act looks to do, is leverage public-private partnerships, having a relatively small touch for US Treasury. And so the main outlay from the US government is loan guarantees and bond issuance, but then to create an ecosystem where capabilities are invested in, where, like space-based solar power, the proposal is put out, there is a need for X amount of megawatt generation with X amount of coverage worldwide. Top 3 finishers get a contract from US government for supplying troops in harm's way and humanitarian relief. That's the sort of system that then generates the competition we need, the private investment that is going to be needed, and ultimately the success and the economic growth across a broad range of industries, ranging from energy to advanced materials. But probably the most urgent and the one that can most capture the attention and imagination is this space energy, because as we've heard, if you control the high ground, you control it all. And having the ability to generate hundreds or thousands of megawatts of power in orbit means you also then have the ability to use that much power from orbit. And there's not a person in a rival country who I would trust with that much power, regardless of how much they reassure us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that's why we're hustling, right? That's why you're in Akron. That's why we're hosting these events. That's why we are hosting our webinars. That's why we, have these various advocacy efforts. I think it is urgent. And again, we thank you all for being here. I think just your support here means a lot. But also, I think I mentioned this earlier, but we are asking for more formal support of what we're doing here. And we're currently circulating a letter to Congress and the executive branch to just to show the industry's support for this bill. And on a side note, we've got a goal of, I think there are roughly 2,000 companies within the aerospace industry. I think our goal is to get as many of those as possible to sign the letter, of course. But in the short term, our goal is to fill at least a couple of pages of logos and just company names supporting our bill, and just not just waiting for Jeff Bezos to make the call or waiting for Elon to make the call. I think this whole group of people, this whole industry needs to come together and show their support. So we are asking for that support. I will drop, I'll drop a PDF of the letter itself in the chat here, but if you read it and you are compelled to support us, please shoot me an email. It's Laila, it's spelled Laila at f4f.com. I'll drop that in the chat, or I'm sorry, at f4f.space. And we'll add you to the letter.
And one of the things we try to emphasize with the Space Corporation Act, and really everything we're doing here at the foundation, we don't have all the best ideas, all the right solutions, but we are growing what we have. The Space Corporation Act's on iteration 32 or 33, having gone through these changes because of comments, feedback, and sort of running into better ideas. And the same with workforce initiatives. And so instead of what you often hear from DC political consultants, where there's one way to do it and it's, you stay ideologically pure or nothing, we're really looking for capability at the end. And so when we say the Space Corporation Act, we have a draft bill because we don't want to show up without a solution in hand. But we also know that there's probably people on this call now or that are going to watch this later who have useful solutions to add to it. And we'd love to hear from you. And we'd love to work with you and your companies to make it better, figure out ways to increase the impact and scale of what we're doing here.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Well, and again, we're not waiting for billionaires and others to build this gateway to space. We're making our voice heard, and hopefully yours as well. So how else you might be able to support the Space Corporation Act and also the Foundation for the Future? We are eagerly awaiting new members. We are on our website, you can click on become a member, and again, the collective voice is stronger than the individual. So your support would help us, and our advocacy efforts would help continue the hosting of these events and our webinars. Tim spoke a lot about our kindergarten to orbit pipeline. That's something we're building out as we speak. And yeah, we're excited to continue all these efforts. So I think we're close to time here, but again, thank you all for joining us. Tim, did you have any last words from Akron?
Nope. This is probably where I should have prepared something wise or witty. I apologize.
It's okay. It's okay. You're on location. It's a lot to ask.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Laila and Tim, and General Quast for jumping in on that conversation. It's great to know the details of those steps to making space accessible for all. And of course, the excitement that's generating is fun to see. There are lots of discussion in the chat, both on the public chat and on the one-on-one chats, at least in my inbox. Great to see that energy. Now I'd like to hand it over to Emily Mishler to fill us in on the philanthropic efforts that tie in with the membership program. Emily?
Lee, thank you so much. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you all and be here today. Thank you so much for joining us with Conversations for the Future. It is absolutely incredible every time I think about and every time I really listen to the vision that Tim and Laila and the board and really all of you allies and friends that we have at the foundation. It's amazing to me to think about the potential that we're tapping into, even in just stimulating these conversations. Is truly unbelievable. So again, thank you for joining us in these Conversations for the Future today. And as these relationships continue to grow and progress continues to be made, it's really becoming more important than ever before to have the infrastructure in place to support the Foundation for the Future's growth, as it is the center point for all of this at the moment. And we are positioning the foundation to be able to continue this important work for years, if not generations to come. From our conversations today, it's abundantly clear that our work is disruptive, it's necessary, and the time is now. And that means we need your help. The comprehensive vision, expertise, dedication, and momentum of the speakers today and the vision of the Foundation for the Future, the powering force behind Conversations for the Future, is more impressive and important than ever before. The future the Foundation is building is inspiring and worth investing in. This future, in space and beyond, is being built one relationship, conversation, and connection at a time. In order to continue this momentum in building and contributing to this caliber of event, conversation, and community, as we've mentioned, we need your help. We need you, our allies, attendees, partners, advocates, and friends, to spread the word about our important work through social media, invite like-minded and like-hearted peers to our events, and to help us connect with philanthropists and organizations who believe what we believe, that our future in space is ours for the building, and the time is now. We're so excited to announce 3 different avenues for you to become involved if you're interested in financially supporting our work from a philanthropic perspective. From the corporate perspective, we have the opportunity to sponsor Conversations for the Future. More information is available at the QR code you'll see on the screen, and the foundation at large on a monthly and annual basis to support this important work. On a personal level, if you, your friends, or family are inspired to support us philanthropically, we welcome your contributions to support building space infrastructure, economy, and community. The foundation has recently also launched a corporate and individual membership program that you've also heard about, whose mission is to connect like-minded and passionate individuals who see the near-term potential in space. We're recruiting everyone, from students to CEOs, to join us in creating a dynamic ecosystem of young enthusiasts, investors, entrepreneurs, and larger industry partners inside or outside of the space industry currently. We welcome all who want to join and contribute to this urgent conversation, which impacts us all. More information is available on the Foundation's website or at the QR code on the screen, f4f.space/membership. So what's our actual ask? At least my ask. Help us in making space boring, because the time is now and the world can't wait. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Laila, Tim, or any affiliate of Foundation for the Future. Our contact information and a link to donate is available at the QR code on the screen and also on the website. I'll be happy to stick around in the chat and field any questions, but for now, thank you so much, and I'll turn it back over to our MCs for our regularly scheduled programming.
Thank you, Emily. We think of space, of everything in space as costing billions of dollars to build, but building a public-private partnership here on Earth to advance space infrastructure development takes small dollars as well as big ones. So thank you to the generosity of our partners, our supporters, and our audiences, some of whom elected to pay the optional registration fee. What an example to set for advancing our mission. So this is my daughter, Tessa, celebrating May the 4th be with you. And I'm glad to have her here today.